Well, if we thought that the last segment of One Punch Man was the conclusion to Psykos and Tatsumaki's battle, we were sorely mistaken, as it continues here, but with the involvement of other heroes, including Drive Knight, ruining the day for Tatsumaki. Which, speaking of, if that's what you're here for, feel free to skip to this time code, as that's when I will be discussing the new pages in the chapter. But this chapter starts off with Tatsumaki and the aftermath of her massive twist with this awesome image of her bum bum. So many people speculated that this might have been her max power output, but at the same time she's been battling, she's worn out, so it's not like 100% fresh Tatsumaki power. But this chapter kind of confirms that, yeah, this kind of is in the realm of her max output, because she just starts bleeding from the eyes and the nose and the mouth in this awesome image. And I'm thinking, oh damn, like, you made Psykos bleed everywhere, but you made yourself bleed too. So this kind, she's thinking, oh shit, did I put out too much power? And this causes all the shields around all the heroes to disappear because she loses her concentration. But Psykos uses this opportunity to kind of transform into this jet, and this totally reminded me of freaking Transformers, guys, except actually, you know what, it kind of reminds me of like Gradius or one of those older like side-scrolling ship shooting games. But this design of this ship is awesome looking. So like, what can't Psykos do? So it kind of turns into some kind of weird, I don't know, dogfight anime or something. But not only that, because she's still scared of Tatsumaki, so she splits herself into multiple decoys, kind of using what tactics Tatsumaki used against her. So this is very interesting. This isn't the only kind of thing that happens in this chapter where they learn from each other's kind of strategies. So this is really cool. And Tatsumaki kind of gets pissed off a little bit at this, and she's like, you don't underestimate me. If you think that was my max power, you got another thing coming. And she creates this incredibly huge shield. And not only that, it actually uses what Psykos did to Tatsumaki. If you remember, she kind of inverted her psychic shield. So Tatsumaki kind of used this kind of concept to trap Psykos in there, and you see her decoys like crashing against the shield. And that kind of reminded me of Independence Day, but this kind of back and forth with Psykos and Tatsumaki is very interesting, because it's almost as if they're training each other, because they're like learning from each other's mistakes and their strategies. So I thought that was really interesting. So Jet Psykos basically figures, hey, you know, this massive shield, that's got to be her max. That has to be taking all of her concentration. So she fires a blast right through Tatsumaki. And the fact that this image is the last of the page makes you feel like, oh shit, did she really just get her? Like, Tatsumaki can't be dead, right? Nope, she fell for the old log jutsu trick again. And this image of Tatsumaki and decoy Tatsumaki just shrouded in the smoke with that freaking facial expression, I love it. And you know that Psykos is gonna get it. But in comes Drive Knight for the save, but not really the save. But what's very interesting is that with Tatsumaki and Psykos here, this is kind of a back and forth dogfight. Like, they're getting one up on each other. Obviously, Tatsumaki is like the better psychic. But then Drive Knight comes in with his jet, and now they're having like a real dogfight. And of course, as Drive Knight does, he's like, I need to acquire this sample from this fucking thing. And he says something very interesting after Psykos says, you dare interfere with the culmination of my evolution. And Drive Knight's like, evolution is spawned from rivalry, which ain't that the truth for, you know, the theme of this chapter, essentially. Like I said before, it's like Tatsumaki and Psykos are like training with each other, learning from each other's mistakes and each other's strategies and everything like that. But during this dogfight, they have this really cool, like, I don't know, DNA spiral clash kind of thing. So I thought that was a cool visual, and also tied into the theme of evolution, I suppose. So here's where we get into the newer pages. And it's also where the chapter just kind of grinds to a halt. I do appreciate them focusing on the other heroes and seeing what they're up to. I always love seeing these guys. But as a part of Psykos, Drive Knight, and Tatsumaki's battle, it kind of just kills the pacing a little bit for me. I just wanted to get back to Drive Knight and see what he does against Psykos. But I am glad to see that Demon Cyborg Genos is A-okay. Maybe A-okay isn't like the right verbiage to use. He looks still pretty messed up, but he's still raring to go, putting his life on the line. And he's like, I'm gonna go back there, you guys need to help too. And then Pig God pukes up a bunch of dudes, like from his gut. And these are the guys that actually were from the redraws that originally died, but in the redraws, Yayan saved them. So now they are getting puked up by Pig God, I guess. So what's really funny is that Child Emperor freaks out because he thinks that Pig God ate and digested Zombie Man. That is hilarious, and it's really funny because he was really worried about Zombie Man earlier, and as we know, Zombie Man is most likely just still buried under all that rubble. But not only that, we get a really touching scene between Ion and Atomic Samurai. He's kind of ashamed that he had to be saved, thinking, hey, he's not strong enough to be S-Class, and I'm like, dude, you have one arm and you're doing all this shit? You are crazy powerful, man. But he says, hey, I managed to stay alive, so that's that. And you know what? Staying alive is half the battle. So during Drive Knight and Sakurachi's dogfight, there's this random ass helicopter that appears, and you know, remind me if they touched up on these guys earlier, but it's kind of a weird but interesting little scene of Drive Knight shooting at Sakurachi, or is he shooting at the barrier to warn the helicopter that there's a barrier there so that they don't crash, because him shooting and hitting the barrier is what warns them to not crash into the barrier. So I thought that was kind of neat. And I liked that they cut back to Drive Knight in the middle of touching up on all these heroes, because we have another hero that we're touching up on, and that is Tank Top Master. Now, he is going and learns that Tornado is over there fighting, and he's like, oh, there's a barrier over there? I'm gonna go join them by throwing this giant transmission tower and fucking riding it. Now that is badass. That is the epitome of badass. I wish I was Tank Top Master, guys. Look at that badass just riding the transmission tower that he just threw. This dude, awesome stuff. So that kind of concludes the chapter of Moomin Rider and them just watching in amazement for what Tank Top Master just did. And, you know, to be honest, I thought this chapter was just okay. I'm kind of done with this whole scene of Tatsumaki versus Psykos. I am glad that other heroes are jumping in. Now we get a chance to have something a little bit more fresh. And I think it's interesting how she just transformed into this random jet. And now they're having like a dogfight with Drive Knight and her. Obviously, I think that they're going to focus a little bit more on Drive Knight versus Psykos. So we'll get some of that. And I felt like it was a little bit lopsided with you know, the fight and then going off and touching up on the heroes. And I don't know, I was a little bit bored compared to other chapters, but obviously that is just my opinion. And I still think art fantastic, action is really cool, good stuff in general. What are your thoughts? Drop your thought waves down in the comments below. As always, thank you very much for watching and take it easy.